Thanks for returning to the Process Improvement Practitioner Show for episode 4, The Derailers. Our mission here is to enable you to solve business problems through change. And as always, please feel free to provide feedback and discuss these ideas on LinkedIn or YouTube or wherever you find these videos. I'm very eager to receive the gift of constructive feedback. This is the third part of a 3-part series on the process improvement leader's state of mind. If you're returning, thanks for sticking with me. If you're new, you may want to listen to the other segments on the process improvement leader's state of mind, where I discuss the traits and mindset of an operational excellence / continuous improvement leader. You can also start listening right here. Honestly, talking about the derailers is kind of interesting, kind of negative in a way. We aren't used to talking this way in the business world. So I can see that maybe this is a little more interesting place to start. So let's talk about what kinds of things process improvement and operational excellence change leaders do that are bad things. I mean, not bad, but maybe, shall we say, poor choices that will make sure you will not succeed. In the spirit of bottom line up front, let me give you the 9 derailers that I've identified and I will talk about today. 1, we've always done it this way. 2, you show up and tell everyone what to do. 3, inflexibility. 4, hero mentality. 5, customers are external only. 6, siloed thinking. 7, we're going to make someone lose their job. 8, letting perfect get in the way of good enough. 9, working hard means progress. First, what is a derailer? I heard this term first when I worked at a big bank. It was actually published in materials distributed to all employees to help with their performance planning. I thought it was very interesting that they would put out in a written leadership development document that says very clearly, more or less, these are the things that you should not do, and if you do them, you will not be working here very long. And 2 decades later, it's really stuck with me. Not only is it clear, but it's helpful as a concept. In the business world, in the world of doers and builders, especially in change management, we are by necessity a positive culture, and we talk about things that we want to do and we will do, but we don't talk about the inverse case, and we really should. In one of my previous companies, we did very dangerous construction work, and in the training there is a term called sticky, the acronym STCKY, which stands for stuff that can kill you. The term gets your attention in a different way than just explaining the right way to do a task, which of course will ensure you do not die. Death is the ultimate derailer. So hopefully I've convinced you that telling someone what not to do is helpful. So the first derailer is a classic. You've all heard it. But we've always done it this way. If you have this attitude, then change leadership is not for you. This is one that everyone knows so well, to the point that actually people won't say it out loud, but some will still think it or otherwise exhibit it. The whole point of process improvement, right? Really any other change project, is that the way that we did it before is no longer good enough. We're willing to spend money and take on various risks, including the risk of making things worse in the process, in order to make a change. That's how much we don't want to do it the old way anymore. I think people have learned not to say this phrase out loud, and so they don't, but they still resist the change because they still possess the attitude. If somebody's willing to say this out loud, take it as a gift of honest candor. Resistance is easier to gauge when people come out and say, we don't want this, sooner than slow walking or otherwise sabotaging the change later. Now we can at least have a dialogue to get to the root of this resistance and then solve for it. In short, this attitude is simply antithetical to a leader of change. You could sooner be a surgeon who faints at the sight of blood. I don't think I need to explain this one any further. Okay, so that was an easy one. Let's do a more controversial one. I think a derailing behavior for a process improvement leader is to be the one who arrives and just tells everyone what to do. You think you know exactly what's wrong and what's needed to right the ship. Perhaps you've managed that team before, or a team like it. Perhaps you've run an operation just like this before and you slip into your old habits. Or you could just rather want to just take a shortcut to a solution. But in reality, it is a shortcut that short circuits the change acceptance process. So this one, of course, comes with a couple of caveats. One, you may truly know what needs to be done and maybe even how it needs to be done. Two, if this is an emergency situation, this mode of operation is more likely required. Three, the action in question may be a small item that doesn't require much change acceptance at all, and is just truly a just do it kind of thing. Four, the action in question will bring the organization back into safety or regulatory compliance. Naturally, use your best judgment. Remember, though, by exercising this direct form of leadership, you can derail your longer-term desire to drive three key things: collaborative problem solving, change acceptance or team buy-in, and overall continuous improvement culture building. Remember that although your presence will undoubtedly drive a lot of behavior changes, someday you will have to leave, and unless the team truly accepts the changes and owns them to the point that they teach new people the new process and procedure, they will backslide for sure, and all your effort will go to waste. Believe me, I've seen it. Nothing worse than starting a project and bringing in a subject matter expert who tells you, yeah, I was coaching this same exact team for this same exact project about 18 months ago. Also, problem-solving methodologies like Kaizen depend on the team self-organizing around a problem, and then that team works out the solution, not you. You facilitate. Give a well-chosen team the problem, the time, the space, tools, and management support and attention, and it comes up with new ways of working that it inherently owns and are most likely better and more sustainable than anything an outsider like you can come up with. Given the choice between a perfect process the team doesn't own and an effective process that the team does own, I would choose the latter every time. General George Patton once said, "Never tell people how to do things. Tell them what to do, and they will surprise you with their ingenuity." To the point of that great quote, inflexibility is a derailer. You will need to roll with the punches and the constant struggles for resources, attention, and priority. You will claw your way to victory inch by inch, and you won't have the luxury of winning in the way that you want to win. You will need to find a path to success, and that path is likely not what you imagined. Another great quote, this time from Mike Tyson: "Everyone has a plan until they get punched in the mouth." Yes, some operational excellence projects will metaphorically punch you right in the mouth. A large-scale example of this is in continuous improvement deployments at the enterprise level. Senior executives may envision the deployment to be focused on a specific business unit where they perceive the most opportunity. Business conditions, or frankly, a lack of support, presents challenges. Meanwhile, other business units who want the help are actively pulling for the support. Executives in this unit may have been exposed to successful operational excellence deployments outside the organization and crave more. They may have the vision to see the opportunity. So, a wise OpEx deployment may consider engaging with the unit that wants them as a stepping stone to find their way into the first organization through building a positive reputation, credibility, and attractive results. Inflexibility, however, means that you won't be able to find that unforeseen and unique path to success, and instead you will beat upon rocks trying to do the improbable while frittering away your goodwill, labor, and management support until they are depleted, and the project is naturally canceled and you go find new work elsewhere. There are a few things that you must be inflexible about, however. First, insist on working on the right kind of work, not busy work. Second, insist on defining and quantifying the goal of the project the best you can. Third, insist on identifying the customer and quantifying their needs, and then measuring how your process does in meeting those needs. both before and after your improvements. But be flexible on most everything else as appropriate. One of your process improvement anthems should be the legendary Tina Turner's classic track from the 1985 film Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome. I'm pausing here so you can get that earworm perfectly lodged for effect. Unfamiliar? We don't need another hero. A classic track and a classic music video from back when music videos were a big deal. What's fun is seeing fashion that is supposed to be futuristic but really is quite contemporary. You'll see big hair and even bigger shoulder pads, all in costume, with a saxophone solo to boot. I'll provide the link in the show notes. Anyway, so please, we don't need any more heroes. What kind of heroes am I talking about? Heroes emerge when we don't have process. In the course of process improvement work, you need to put heroes out of business, which is a good thing. Heroes step up and are needed when things go badly, and we don't ever want things to go badly. There's no need for people to be working 12 hours a day on the regular. And you will find some employees that want to remain heroes, perhaps due to the satisfaction of being so highly valued and important to the team. Heroes at work may also think that their job is safe, but heroes also can't take vacation. Heroes can't get promoted either. In your work, you are eliminating the need for heroes, and you certainly are not creating the need for more heroics. And this also applies to you and your engagement in this work. Remember that the process owner is lucky to have you involved in this process, so you are likely a free and overtrained and overqualified resource, which means you can't stay. So if you find yourself stepping into actually executing the process, you are not helping for the long term. With your skills and abilities, you are better utilized to lead the change versus getting sucked into trying to fix things by doing the work. Don't do that either. Another derailing behavior, and I'm not sure if it's derailing or maybe it's just a core principle that you must have, is that everyone has a customer, and that customer is more than likely than not an internal customer. Every process provides something to a customer. If you operate a stamping machine on a production line, your customer is the owner of the next step in that process. So your immediate customer is Marv at the welding station or Mary in the final assembly, because she depends on your inputs to produce her outputs. Your customer, internal or external, depends on your work being done to a given specification. The end consumer, of course, depends on your work, but they may not even be aware of the part that you're fabricating even exists in their product. But certainly the person who depends on your output as an input into their process cares very deeply. Everyone has a customer, and that may be a mind shift for a lot of people. Probably much more so in transactional environments versus manufacturing, where I suspect it's more obvious than not that somebody is doing a lousy job. Another example, a data analyst is working on an AI project by collecting and preparing data records to be used to train the AI tool. The analyst is dependent on customer notes entered into a record for a customer's phone call 5 years ago. The linkage between customer and the person delivering to the customer is far more obfuscated by time and awareness, but the relationship is there. Part of what we do to improve quality is to shed light on these relationships that aren't obvious. Only by doing this can we improve quality as measured by who? The customer. A related derailer to not thinking in terms of internal and as well as external customers is siloed thinking. If you've been exposed to an organization where support partners are engaged at a low level and or are fully integrated into processes, you may not even be aware of this kind of thinking. Silos are created by organizing the enterprise by function versus product or service. Silos can also exist with supporting organizations. For example, the finance partners may roll up into the CFO, or safety professionals may roll up to the head of safety, or the customer service division has a separate division that provides service and support to your product line. In these cases, however, the organization uses a matrix of a dotted line and solid line accountability between the support partner and the function they support. A plant manager, for example, will have a dedicated finance professional and a safety professional that may not directly report to them, but do provide direct support. The silos form along the path of value delivery to the customer. For example, I worked at a very, very large company that not only distributed products, but manufactured products. As it turned out, the relationship between those two groups was so non-existent that they may as well have been separate companies. One would expect that the product line of a given business would have the best relationship to the distribution line of the same business, but that was definitely not the case. The data clearly showed that the product line of the business was the poorest performing supplier to the distribution business. When I suggested having the product business modify the packaging to reduce the work on the distribution side, I received laughter. Who would we even talk to, was the response. And I'm sure when this company purchased the product line, it wasn't organically grown. I'm sure the CEO and the CFO touted to the Wall Street analysts how bringing this in-house would lead to efficiencies. In the operations arena, I didn't see any, and in fact saw the opposite. Poor internal customer experiences that no doubt translated to poor external customer experiences. An example of ending siloed thinking is sales, inventory, and operations planning, or SIOP in short. This is an ongoing alignment across the value chain of sales, manufacturing, and distribution to ensure a firm is meeting customer obligations and needs. Imagine a world where sales makes promises that can't be delivered. Does that sound familiar? SIOP aligns across all the links of the chain, and it really seems obvious too. For those familiar with Agile or Scrum software development, you also see how silos are broken down. In the old days, product people wrote requirements, they threw them over the wall to developers, and then they threw back questions, etc. In Agile, the product owner is locked in the room with the developers in what is called a Scrum so that they are always on hand to answer questions about the customer's needs. No more throwing requirements and questions over a wall and waiting for a response. No more uncomfortable moments when developers are delivering something that the product people were not expecting. The product is sitting with the developers as they deliver value to customers. In short, corporate functions do not deliver for customers. Integrated value chains do. Manage your delivery as close as possible to these value chains. Promote end-to-end thinking. One more derailer, and maybe more of a principle, is that process improvement means someone is going to lose their job. In my experience, I simply haven't seen anyone lose their job due to a process improvement initiative. It is possible, sure, but it's certainly not automatic. Do not carry this attitude with you, and certainly be prepared always to dispel it. When you show up to meet the team delivering a process you're going to be working on, some may be apprehensive, but more likely they know things aren't working well and they welcome help. No one wakes up in the morning and looks forward to doing a bad job. We all want to do meaningful things with our time, and doing stupid stuff is never meaningful. Delivering better processes that produce less waste while delivering more quality and faster doesn't mean cutting jobs. What it does mean is that we are doing a better job, which makes us more competitive, which may mean more work coming towards us. With additional work means more challenge in our career, which prepares us for future challenges elsewhere. It keeps things interesting and fun. And if we are delivering more, that may mean a conversation about compensation. If you're doing more, you should be paid fairly for that work. Certainly there are processes that have too many people. Removing people simplifies the work, so some roles may be eliminated. Again, the organization is hopefully growing, which means that more roles elsewhere open up. Also, there is likely natural attrition already happening, which means instead of letting someone go, we simply may hire one less person in our ongoing hiring processes. Ultimately, we are in a stronger place to keep our processes improving. Personally, I take a dim view of letting perfect get in the way of good enough. I think we are all guilty of it. When a work product is inextricably tied to ourselves, you don't want to release something that isn't perfect. I face this in this moment as I record my spoken words and ideas for the internet that will last forever digitally in some far-flung data center. But at some point, we have to call the work done and move on. At some point, perfectionist behavior becomes selfish because the work is no longer as important as the person doing the work and his needs. So how does this manifest? If you are brought on to solve problems in an area where there hasn't been enough focus, you may find tons of opportunities. This has happened to me before. It's not that there is a lot of low-hanging fruit, it's that you can't walk around without bumping into fruit all over the ground. It becomes highly distracting, but we simply can't solve it all right now. And frankly, many of those things will have to be solved by the organization itself. This is also why building a continuous improvement culture is so important. Teach the team how to empower itself to fix these problems on its own instead of relying on external resources that will be inevitably redeployed to put out fires elsewhere. I've also seen an occasion where seeking the perfect was a form of resistance. The idea is that the process owners or participants, to prevent change, create an unachievable list of requirements that will prevent forward motion. An example I found was in the course of deploying a cloud software solution, the business wanted specific functions that didn't exist. That then drives a conversation about what it means to make a custom software solution versus utilizing something, quote, out of the box. Did the business really need these functions? No. At best, they were nice to haves dressed up as critical. Having strong business sense and strong alignment to the project charter can help deflect these items. By utilizing a project portfolio or an enhancement list, you should memorialize these items so they're not being ignored or dismissed. But what you don't want to happen is to expend a lot of effort on these kinds of items because they will slow you down. And in this case, that was the intent. Jam up the change for as long as possible in the hopes that the project just goes away. Fortunately, we have a project charter that keeps us aligned to our objectives, and a project champion or sponsor who can speak for the customer and say, "You're done, good enough, mission accomplished." Maintaining a strong portfolio of projects helps keep us focused on what's next. Endless tinkering with the work is diverting resources for more pressing opportunities. Let the portfolio be your management focus. If there's work still left to do, then add it to the portfolio so it can be triaged and prioritized on a regular basis. One more final derailer to share. A lot of people seem to think that exerting a lot of effort means progress. In Ross Perot's biography, My Life and the Principles for Success, he encourages the reader not to reward people who are visibly working hard because they are very often fixing some problem they created. That always stuck with me. Equally memorable was the line in National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation. Let me play it for you.
You worked really hard, Grandma.
So do washing machines.
Really hard work doesn't mean success. We should be careful to reward hard work. We should recognize it, however. How does this derailer manifest? Spending a lot of hours on things that aren't moving us towards our goal. Spending time on projects that have little lift in the primary metric. Doing continuous improvement tools that are fun and enjoyable and are really cool but don't get us any closer to solving our problems. Imagine a rowboat filled with people, each with oars. Imagine every third person rowing in the opposite direction with all their might, like Olympian level effort, working very, very hard directly against ourselves. That is the visual that you need when leading change teams. Make sure all the oars are going in the right direction. That's leader business, making sure that everyone is pulling in the right direction, and if it means stopping everyone for a few minutes to get resynced, then do it. The temporary cost of forward momentum is well worth it. Thanks for hanging in with me as we cover 9 derailing behaviors that you need to avoid as a change professional. We definitely want to avoid thinking we've always done it this way. As a change agent, we don't want to just show up and start issuing orders. That short circuits building a change culture while shutting down great ideas from the team who are doing the work. You must be flexible because the path to success is often going to be different than expected. We do not want to encourage hero behaviors. Well-run operations ought not to depend on heroics day in and day out. Do not think for a minute that there are only external customers. Recognizing the needs of internal customers will be a key insight and source of success. Do not encourage silos, but break them down, not just across support functions, but across the entire value chain. Continuous improvement initiatives are not about causing people to lose their job. It is about improving the work to make the team more effective and empowering the team to drive those changes. Don't let the perfect get in the way of the good, and measure the progress, set an achievable goal, keep taking ground until you achieve it. And then finally, don't confuse hard work with success. Strive to make every hour count and use your organization skills to ensure the team is working on the right things all the time. Thanks again for tuning in. I welcome your feedback. Message me via dutchcedar.com. I welcome and am hoping to drive constructive conversations so that we can all get better at this craft. And as always, keep moving onward and upward. Thanks.